talk about your experience in Ashoka and how have been this contact of relationship with entrepreneurs and also you as a social entrepreneur. Can you share with us all your experience?
Absolutely, be delighted to. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Actually, before I start, can I just come back to something that Chris opened up with at the beginning, which is talking about the phrase at the bottom of the pyramid, and just explain a problem that I have with the phrase, and also try to explain a little bit about why the base of the pyramid is so important. If you're like me and you hear the phrase bottom of the pyramid, I don't know what you imagine. I mean, I kind of imagine like a sort of Egyptian pyramid, you know, very classic sort of square style thing, comes up like this. And when I hear the phrase the bottom of the pyramid, it sounds like it's, you know, it's quite marginal actually. It's quite a niche thing, you know, there's the mainstream world, the business world and so on, and then there's this thing right at the bottom, there's this market potentially has potential. And the challenge I have with that is simply in the numbers. And when you look at them and you put it out there beautifully, 3.8 billion people in the world earn less than $2 a day. So, you know, if you actually go up and look at that, you get to 4 billion, you know, 4.5 billion, you're still only earning probably about $4 a day. When you cross 5 billion, it's probably not only about 4.5. And it's only when you get to the top 10% that you start to break into anything even remotely approaching Western levels of standards of living. So I think the phrase the bottom of the pyramid is actually very misleading. Because if you actually visualized it, it wouldn't be a pyramid. What it would be a massive flat slab sitting on which there is one little spike coming out, which is the developed world, the so-called developed world. You know, the vast majority of humanity in that. And so, you know, there's temptation when we talk about base of the pyramid to think this is actually quite a marginal thing, it's quite niche, and this is quite a small market. In fact, no. You know, there's another name for the bottom of the pyramid, and if we look at it, it's called humanity. You know, the vast majority of people on this planet live in conditions that we might call near the base of the pyramid. And then I think something very important to bear in mind about why, therefore, it's so important. You know, this is the condition of vast majority of people in this world. Just introduce myself and my background. So I work for an organization called Ashoka, which is a network of social entrepreneurs around the world. And Ashoka has been working in this space now for quite a while. It began in India in 1981. And at that time, there was really no concept of social entrepreneurship. You know, this idea that there were people out there who set up businesses or new models, disrupt ways of doing things. They weren't government. They weren't necessarily NGOs, but they weren't necessarily pure business people either, because they weren't just working for profit or to maximize profits. It was a very, very unusual concept at that time. And so Ashoka's rationale at that time was simply to try and find and support and elect as many of these people as possible. And so the rationale of Ashoka, and it remains Ashoka's model today, is to go out and find extraordinary people who have great ideas of how to create social innovation in their markets and give them a stipend and support them for at least 3 to 5 years, you know, and give them the support to get going to do that. And so we began doing that in 1981. All of this money that we raised came from foundations, from high net worth individuals, from various corporate partners and supporters, and go on to do that. We began doing that, and for the first 10 years, that was pretty much all that Ashoka did, was go out and find these people and give them a stipend so they could go and work and build the idea. And the aim was to try and build this field of social entrepreneurship. It was trying to introduce the concept into the mainstream so that people would be comfortable with this idea that you could be a business that could also be doing social impact, and in fact be driven by social impact as your primary motivation. And in the evolution of Ashoka, you know, we came to realize after a decade that this was not enough. You know, if you want to support social entrepreneurs, you have to do so much more than simply just recognizing them and giving them a stipend so they can do what they do. We have to start building in other ways to support. And so there came the idea of building an ecosystem of support around social entrepreneurs, working with corporations, working with partners on the ground, working with academic institutions and so on, to provide all the resources that social entrepreneurs working at the base of the pyramid need to continue doing that. And so that was the next decade of evolution of Ashoka. And today, we've now got to a certain level of scale. We've just crossed our 3,000th entrepreneur in 75 countries working and doing this. And we've built up a fantastic network of supporting partners and institutions that work with us all the way from McKinsey and Google and others. And so we're starting to build up quite a bit of insight now into what it takes to move this field and to create some impact at the base of the pyramid. And in the last 5 years, we've now begun launching programs targeting specific areas like education at the base of the pyramid, for example, or renewable energy, or various other areas where we think there are some critical fulcrum points that could make a massive difference to acceleration of development at the base of the pyramid. And I just want to talk very briefly, introduce one project that we launched about 4 years back, which I'm involved with, called Solar for All. And Solar for All is based on the idea that one of the critical fulcrum points, if you like, for development right now in sub-Saharan Africa or India or in Southeast Asia is in the space of renewable energy, and specifically in solar technology. For many different reasons, why that might be the case. I mean, one of them is the fact that solar power has become dramatically cheaper in the last 4 or 5 years, and therefore we're reaching a point where it's certainly competitive relative to certain other technologies, like diesel generation, for example, or kerosene or other fossil fuels, or even other renewable energies. And the other insight is that with solar is because it works at very small scale. You can have a very small charger which costs less than $10, but its impact in an African village or an Indian village which is off-grid and remote can be enormous. Mobile phones, for instance, there are 600 million mobile phones in sub-Saharan Africa. Just imagine the demand and the need for low-cost, easy, efficient charging services. And I hope we'll come to some later on in discussion into some of the insights and learnings that we've achieved from that, because we've had a ton of different learnings from trying to promote the field of solar energy in these base of the pyramid markets. But there's just two I'd like to flag very early on. When we launched the project, we thought that technology would be really key. Low-cost, affordable chargers and power units. And what we realized, speaking to entrepreneurs and going on the ground, was actually that wasn't the case. It's not so much technology anymore. It isn't so much even about cost, because there are ways that we can work around cost, creating new ways to find cheaper and more affordable solutions to serving these markets. The two things that were really, really important. The first one is product innovation. And what I mean by that is finding the right kind of product to fit and serve these markets. Because we have this issue that I think it was Paul Polak and his team who actually highlighted this point. 80% of the products in the world today are designed for the wealthiest 20% of consumers. In fact, it's probably even less than 20% of consumers. So if our model for serving the base of the pyramid is to try and simply turn them into mini versions of your American consumer or your UK consumer, we're starting down the wrong path. We have to find new products and services that actually meet and serve the needs of these markets, and I can talk about what some of those might be in just a moment. But just one simple example, it's absolutely insane in developing countries. It's been encouraging, for example, more and more cars as if they should be like New York or London. When products like solar-powered bicycles could be a fantastic potential innovation that we would never have here, but that could be extraordinary for some of those markets. So that's one key area for innovation. And the other key area, and perhaps the most important, is exactly what Chris touched upon, which is the need for business model innovation above all else. And business model innovation encompasses so many different things, but essentially it's the idea that you don't have to deliver goods and services in the way in which a consumer in New York or London receives goods and services. If you go to Kenya today, 1 in 5 transactions taking place financially is already taking place across a mobile phone. So therefore, why even bother going out and building a bricks and mortar banking system such as we developed here in the West? There are so many ways to leapfrog past and innovate beyond what we currently have, and we can share some examples of that in just a moment. So product innovation and business model innovation above all have been absolutely critical learnings for us in terms of how to make this work.